Okay, so with our function in place, let's look at the main program area. So I'm going to pull up the instructions here. So step 1 is in the bag. We've done that. That's our function. In step 2, it's telling us, okay, in the main program area, we're going to create these variables. You know what? I'm just going to copy and paste these into my code window. We'll talk about them. Okay. So this is a lot of variables, and you know what, you don't necessarily have to create them at the top like I'm doing here, but I would advise you to, just because there are so many of them and you want to keep them in a nice organized location rather than having them scattered throughout the program. You want to have systematic names for them. So let's talk about these. So the number of students is the number of students in the class. I'm going to pull up the sample output here. So remember, we were prompting the user for the number of students in the class, and it has to be between 1 and 24 students. So the number of students is going to go into that num students variable. Okay, so the midterm, and then the program prompts, once we have a proper number of students, the program prompts the user for midterm and final exam scores, and those scores are going to go into these midterm and final variables. Okay. Letter grade is an important variable. That's the letter that's coming back from the function, that's being returned by the function. So this is the A, B, C, D, or F that is returned by the function. And I'll drive this home when we look at that particular line of code, but we need to capture that return value in a variable, and then from there we can assess the number of A's, the number of B's, number of C's, D's, and F's in the class. So these are what I would call tally variables. We're tallying up the number of students that had A's, the number that had B's, and so on. Okay. So we'll increment these later, depending on what comes back from the function in A, B, C, or whatnot. And then we are going to display the percentages of various grade categories. So here's our output here, and we have the number. Those are the tally variables that I just talked about. But then we're also computing the percentage. So if I'm the teacher, I can say, wow, 75% of my class had A's, and so on. So so we have the percentage variables too. A lot of variables in this program, but they're all kind of similar in a way, especially these. We've got 10 variables, but they all serve kind of a similar purpose. So anyway, I have my variables in place. So we're going to get the number of students from the user, but we're going to use an input validation loop, a while loop, to make sure that the user cannot go outside of the legal boundaries for the number of students. So I already have that coded. Let me paste it in here. Okay, so we have while num students is less than 1 or num students is greater than 24, meaning we're outside of the boundaries, the legal boundaries, I'm going to ask the user to enter the number of students. So you can see, and also this is, obviously we have an input statement here with a prompt, but you need to convert that as it's coming through the door, as it's coming into your program. You need to convert that to numeric data, whatever the user is entering. So let's run that. Okay, so if I say there are 80 students in the class, we know that's not permissible. And so my loop is in place, just going to come right back at the user every time. 0 students in the class, once again, not legal. Finally, if I say 1 student in the class, good, it's satisfied. So that's your input validation loop. I think I'm going to end this video and start a new video for the next task.